Welcome back to Plumbcast by Chivers Plumbing. We had some excellent feedback from our first one with the 5 or 6 views that we got, Danny. But anyway, we had some really good feedback. We've got plenty of new episodes in line, so there's plenty to come. And today we have a special guest who I'd like to introduce. Danny, this is every time I do the introduction, it's quite funny, but we have Wayne Chivers. So, Dad, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
So this is going to be a little bit of getting used to talking to Wayno in a studio because obviously Danny, Wayne and I experienced a very unique few years working together as a couple of apprentices under Wayne's mastership. So today's episode's going to wind back the clock. We're going to talk about the history of plumbing, how Wayne got into the trade of plumbing, what it was like back then, what it's like today, some crazy stories about apprentices over the years, problem customers, dramas. We've got a whole heap in store. So this one should be good. It's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be a fantastic episode or it's going to be a nightmare. So,
well, Wayne's done a couple of podcasts through the 70s and 80s, wouldn't you?
I have.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So anyway, Wayne's been reading his little run sheet for the past 5 days intently as if it's an acting. So we've let him know that it's very natural and we'll run through it. So what do we got first, Audrey? What are we going to kick into? Awesome. Do you want to take it away?
Sure. Well, I fell into it really because my brother was a plumber, Gary. He was 14 years older than me, and I used to go to work with him as a young bloke. So I basically fell into it from a very early age. And
what kind of work was he doing at the time? Because I know you did a lot of commercial as a.
Yeah, well, he did a lot of back in the late 60s and early 70s. There was a lot of flats being built.
Commission style?
Not so much commission style, particularly around Northcote, West Scarth. They were all those big blocks. They were just building, 10 or 12 flats on nearly every corner. And so I used to go to work with Gary, and we were always working on flats. There always seems to be these little tiny bathrooms and
or concrete.
they were double brick.
Mm.
What tell us about the materials? I think we'll dive straight into this with flats because obviously we're talking about this would be like the equivalent to apartments these days.
Sure.
What did your sewer and your sanitary stacks and how were you doing your water pipes? Let's get into that.
Well, it was all double brickwork, so we had to chase all the hot and cold water into
Did you have a raker,
the walls.
like a brick raker tool back then?
No, it was a hammer and chisel.
Yeah.
Bang, bang, bang. And so all the breaches were put in behind the brickwork with sand and cement, and there was very little lagging on the pipes. It was just a matter of in you go. And I think I spent most of my early days as a young bloke mixing sand and cement, just putting up, and I used to practice putting sand and cement in the walls. All the waste pipes were all gal in those days, so I'd be out there with a big set of dies and trying to push down on the 50 mil.
I've always wondered that. Do you buy so in the 60s when your 1960s Bedford delivery truck comes along with some lengths of 50 mil gal?
Yeah.
Do you then have to just cut, die, and tap every single?
Yeah. So you'd get your 6 metre lengths.
Yeah.
And you'd have thumping big dies, and I mean big dies like this. And you'd have your vice bench. You wind down your pipes. And your oil, it's crazy.
This all sounds so foreign. It's oil,
and then you'd measure your length of pipe, and you would chuck the dies on, and you would stand down. Now, obviously, as a young guy, I couldn't even push the dies down, especially on the 50 mil gal pipe. And then you'd hemp it, all the fittings together.
He really is a dinosaur. When you hear this hemp and dyes, and just for clarity for non-plumbers that might be listening to it, dyes is like when you cut threads onto steel tube essentially, so that you can screw fittings onto.
This is what even us, we've missed out, and the new apprentices have missed out on what a true tradesman was. And it goes back to every trade now. It's not just like the old plumbers, they know this stuff. They know how to weld, they know how to cut threads, they know how to really, and I always talk about panel beaters as well. You look at the old panel beaters and they can fix anything, but then you go to a new panel shop now and they just go, oh, Mercedes bumper, write it off, new one, not fixing it. These old guys, they, that's a dying skill because it's not required.
So
lead work, of course. We used to dress all the lead work up, so you'd have an internal corner and you would dress the lead up from both sides and bring it backwards and sideways to bring, so you had depth in the lead. I can remember even having that as your journeyman's exam, that they had a corner where you had to dress your lead into a corner and that's how you got marked.
Wow.
In fact, I remember Gary telling me back in the 10, 15 years before that, that they'd actually dress a lead collar up in a corner and dress up like a flue or a pipe. So you actually had to put that over as a vent pipe. So in a corner and over, so you'd have both.
Okay, so you got into the industry from your older brother. And what did tell us about the last years of your schooling and what the transition from high school or tech school back then, what that was like, and how you got your apprenticeship, and how did it come about, and who did you work for?
Yeah, sure. So I was very lucky that I got a job on commercial buildings with EA Watts, great builders. We were building basically every project in the city. BHP, AMP, Collins Place, Commonwealth Bank, all the big 40, 50-storey buildings. So as a young guy, they put you into young apprentice. They put you into their head office in Hoddle Street. The first thing you would do is you learn brass fabrication.
In the office in their factory.
Yeah, in their factory. Their office was upstairs. Downstairs was a big, huge workshop where you could put 30, 40 plumbers in there. And you would learn brass fabrication. So I used to beat up the brass and make junctions, and probably that's where I learnt to really be a tradesperson, making up long brass fabrications. You can imagine a bit of brass which was 5 metres long. You had 5 or 6 pan branches, and each branch had to be pulled at minus 15s. You'd have to fall on the.
So interesting.
So with that's
It's like at Clarendon Street when we did that bathroom
Yeah.
renovation, we pulled the wall down.
Yeah.
And there's a horizontal stack going through the wall in brass.
Yeah.
And they've pulled the branches all at 88
Yep.
degrees coming out while keeping them all at 185.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, that's proper craftsmanship.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Kind of though. So it was all tested by, in those days, MMBW. The problem was when it went on to the job, particularly we multi-story, no one really knew where all the floor levels were. So you'd put the brass fabrication in an empty concrete building, and then a year or 2 years later, when all the walls were built and the tiles were done, you had to fit the pans off or the basins off, and of course nothing ever lined up.
Yeah.
So I can remember a couple of the old time plumbers getting blocks of wood, bending stuff up and moving it all over the place. And I used to go, oh my God, all those hours and hours I would spend making everything perfect, getting it stamped, and it'd be all damaged and dinted. And
So did you do your whole apprenticeship on one job? Because as you're saying, like 2 years to get it from rough in to fit off, so by the time you do a 4-year apprenticeship, you'd still be nearly on the same job.
So, no, I was fortunate that we moved around to 4 or 5 really big projects in the city. Obviously, my favourite one was Collins Place. That was ANZ Tower, and AMP and ANZ Towers. They were both 46 stories high, but they're actually a little bit higher than Nauru House, which was supposed to be 52, but our floors were a bit higher. So it was the highest project in Melbourne. Nearly took up a whole city block. But you learn everything from sewer ejectors, which were 4 or 5 car parks down below Collins Street, and it was pretty exciting times. I learnt a lot.
You would.
I learnt a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we'll power through your apprenticeship.
Sure.
What was your transition to kind of leaving? Obviously, it sounds
that's
like you were.
easy.
Okay. It sounds like you were really embedded in that commercial kind of space, and that was your apprenticeship. How did you become the guy that could, prefab stacks for a 50-story building to Wayne the plumber from Greensboro that comes to change your tap washer and your pillar taps?
That was easy, Jordan. The Stephen Pratt and I, NB Pratt, Stephen and I started doing weekend work, and it didn't take us long to realise after a Saturday or Sunday we've made 2 weeks, 3 weeks income, and we both said, what are we doing working for a company when basically we can knock the same, earn the same amount of money, in 1 or 2 days' work. So
did you struggle to go from commercial installer to a maintenance plumber? Because nowadays these guys that do the installs have never seen spindle extensions sunk in a wall or concrete. Was it a similar thing, or you were so kind of wrapped around everything that it all made sense?
It was much easier because what you got to understand, when we were working multi-story, we were working with cast iron, 300 mil cast iron, which we'd run 200 or 300 metres with branch lines coming off that. So you would spend probably 99% of your day or days setting out where everything was going to end up. So it was very simple going from the big, huge stuff, particularly like the fire service, the big 150 fire service, down to half-inch gal pipe. It was not hard at all. It was pretty simple. Very hard to go the other way, but to come back to houses, it was rather simple.
What was what year did you go out on your own?
So around
77 on the side of the cars.
So we started working. Freddie and I started working basically at 77. We were working part time then. Say 78, 77, 78, because basically we had a business going that was nearly as big as what I was. Our part time business was bigger than what I was doing at work. It was just huge.
What does a plumber in 1977? Do they drive a high ace with Apple CarPlay and Maps, or what do you drive? I think
do your jobs get dispatched via an iPad? And
sure.
Didn't you have a couple of F100s or?
Yeah, so makes me think back actually when Paddy's old man used to talk to me about. He was a Northcote boy.
And he was a plumber as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had a big business. And believe it or not, he told me when he was an apprentice, now he'd be 100 and something now, Paddy's old man, but they used to tie pipes to the running board of the tram. He said he'd get, the boss had sent him somewhere and they would get cal pipes and they would literally tie them to the running board and then get to the job that way. So
via tram,
they would tie the pipes to the running board, and that's a true story. But look, it was very slow, very tedious. I remember when someone wanted a plumber at home, and they would come and knock at the door, and quite often I'd be home, and one of the neighbours would knock. When Gary gets home, can he come around and have a look at a burst pipe or whatever?
What'd you do? Snipe his work?
No.
Yeah, oh no, don't worry about Gary. I'm an apprentice. Yeah. I'll come and do it for you.
So when we went in, it wasn't long before we had the pages. So probably 22, 23, and you'd ring the phone once. We'd be ring back to the office when you've got time. If it was 2. Within half an hour, if it was 3 times they would ring, that means it's urgent job.
So would you often finish for the day because you think you're finished, come home and check the messages and go, we've got to go back?
I had to go home 4 or 5 times a day.
And you might have driven from Greensboro to Warrandyte,
Yeah.
got home and someone in Warrandyte seen your car and says, "Oh, can you come do this?" And you were around the corner 10 minutes ago, and now you've got to go back.
I got a bit smart with that, Danny. I used to say to the customer, "Is it okay if I can ring home to get any calls diverted?"
smart.
So you'd use the customer's
Yeah.
landline
Yeah.
to ring
Check
back
your
to
own.
your
Yeah.
home, and your mum was helping.
Yeah,
you,
my
wasn't
mum.
she?
Yeah, my mum worked for me in those days.
So
Dorothy.
she would man the phones.
Yeah, so I would then ring. I would say, "Oh, look, I'm at Danny's mum's house. Is it okay if we just ring home to say?" And quite often, the phone would be ringing all morning, and the customer, Mr. Smith, would go, "It's for you, Wayne. It's for you, Wayne." So if I was working there for a whole day, I might have 3 or 4 calls.
Imagine being like Wayne's mum and you're at home and you know there's an urgent job that Wayne needs to get to, but there's no way of calling him.
Well, I
So
think
you don't
what
know
he's
how to find
saying is that she would ring the customer
Customer.
where he knew
Yeah.
he was.
Is Wayne still there?
Every customer was pretty good about it because they realised if
Sound
they
right.
needed help, you help the next person. And it was rather communal.
It's such a different way of life.
We're on the last leg of we're born in '94. We're on the last leg of the landlines. Like
I still remember your landline.
yeah.
Got it in my head.
Yeah, the landline used to be extremely popular, and you need it every day, and you have the phone book, and everyone's number, and that was the only way.
Yeah,
Now people are too scared to call; and they want to text.
I know. It's really sad. So you've kicked off your own business. Things are going well. What was your first break? What was your first good job? How did you go from being a plumber who's just gone out on their own to kind of establishing your business?
So I set up the building business, and you mentioned the other day what you were looking for builders. Danny, don't forget we are builders. We've got my registration on hold at the moment because I didn't want to renew it this year. But I got into the building game, started to build a few houses. Found that wasn't quite for me. It was a little bit too complicated. So I guess I got my very big break working at the Ministry of Housing.
So government work.
Yeah, government work. I just went along to do as a subcontractor, and a couple of the guys at the Ministry of Housing said, "Would you like to price a job?" And from there, we ended up with a huge crew where we worked all around
You keep
Victoria.
mentioning we, so it's like you
I'm
can't.
always a we guy, Danny.
No,
I
but
never
also-
say me.
No, but
It's-
also
it's always we, isn't it?
what I know is you've always had your mates who you've worked with, and you can call that backup. You can
course.
only do so much as a one man show, and a lot of your old mates all ran one man shows.
Yeah.
So when you had a biggie, you'd have to call the boys up and be like, "Hey, I've got this renewal. I'll chop you this and this. Let's all come down, and we'll get it done on a Saturday and Sunday."
Yeah. Well, there was Fitzy, of course. You know,
Yeah.
he's always been there, and Glenn has always been there, and we would share jobs. And Paul was, Paul was my best man. We would always share stuff, and we'd work in deals with stuff, and it was always you couldn't really do it on your own.
I think it's really important that plumbers even continue to do that. And we've recently started, branching out and talking to other guys and how can we help you? How can we help you? Let's do this job together.
Yeah.
And it's awesome for both parties. And
There's so much to be said in looking after one another.
for sure.
Well, look at this week. You did the big job in
Yep.
Brighton
in Brighton for drain fixes.
for the drain fixes.
Met
That was
Lewis
huge
there
job.
at the No Dig Down Under conference, top bloke, had a beer with him. And you get talking, you go, "What do you guys do? What do you guys do? Hey, I reckon I could help you out." All of a sudden, you had that conversation. The job comes to you and you go, "Oh, that's not really for me." But in the back of your head, you go, "Hang on, I know someone who can help you with that." And
We do a lot of work for a lot of plumbers, don't
For
forget. We do a huge amount of work for other plumbers that can't do what we do.
Yeah. We don't want to let dig ups overrun this
Again.
podcast
not
because
like
that was
last
some of
time.
the feedback. All Danny and I spoke about is digging sewers, so we're not going to go
Very
into that.
passionate.
But yes, we do dig a lot of sewers and complicated digs for other plumbers.
Can I ask how many we have done this week?
What's Thursday today? Oh, I don't know, probably half a dozen. Yeah, it's probably half a dozen. I don't know. Or do you have to pull the exact numbers? But
pretty
a
good.
lot. Yeah, we do a lot. That's it. That's what we do.
patch my own mistakes from couple of podcasts ago, I mentioned that it was $1,500 on the Yellow Pages back in the day, but I was incorrect, Wayne. I think you said it was
Incorrect, 1,500.
Yeah.
Try 15,000,
I was
Danny.
out about 100% or something like that.
15,000. No wonder I used to get stressed and I get bills in for 15,000 off Yellow Pages.
So if we go back to the Yellow Pages days, that was, 15 years ago? Yeah.
When did we first set up? 2008, the first web page or
The
something?
first website was 2008,
It's
2007.
Yellow Pages started going downhill because the web took over.
So we're talking nearly 20 years ago. 15 grand is actually, like, we laughed at 1,500. 15 grand's a big...
That's a substantial amount of money for 2007, 2008. When you really look at what was a Mitsubishi Express van back then was probably only costing 15,000, and spending that on advertising.
Let me qualify that. So I used to say that to Yellow Pages. In all fairness, they'd say, we go from, Melbourne, northeastern suburbs down to the,
So did you used
down
to
to Dandenong.
did
So-
you used to argue them?
No, I'll talk about that in a minute. I only used to argue how their delivery. But you've got to understand, one phone call one day from a city real estate firm brought us in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work. So I think it was a $2,000 ad under Greensboro, but we were taking out hundreds of thousands of dollars a year because we got in with that company and we're doing work all around Melbourne for them through one phone call. So in fairness, okay, $2,000 ad, but might have been $2 million worth of work.
For sure. So there was some particular jobs that I believe you wanted to, when we spoke about this last week, we wanted to touch on. Have you got a memorable moment in your early career before before we talk into the transition of Danny and I entering and the kind of new era starting, which I'm most excited for? Can you tell us some of your, any particular memorable or disastrous or nightmare situations that you were dealt?
I had hundreds of them, Jordan. Hundreds and hundreds.
Sorry to interrupt. Not jobs that you created the nightmares, though. Okay, so nightmare situations that you had nothing to do with.
Some of them, the most serious ones, was the night Vic Roads decided to rip out the main sewage system out of Austin Hospital in Studley Road. And they called me at about 4 o'clock. I went down to have a look, and to say it was chaotic would be an absolute... It was seriously a war zone. The whole sewage system out of Austin was running down the footpath.
So what did they
across the road? It was like crazy.
So for some clarity for our listeners, they were doing roadworks and
So
they
put
ripped up
they put the new road beside Austin there, and they had to do some work around the corner.
How come you got the call? Was this sounds like it's a main
Yellow
or-
Pages.
You're kidding.
No, it would have been Yellow Pages.
Plumber Rosetta.
It would have been Yellow Pages, my favourite friends.
Wow.
So, they would have gone, emergency plumbers.
Was it something you could help out with?
So I got there. Glenn was working. Paul was working. There was 4 or 5 of us working. And I rang these guys up and said, you better come down here. This is like a war zone. And we're all standing around just because obviously you can't tell Austin Hospital to shut down their water supply. So the first thing we did, we triaged the situation where we got the excavator and we dug this thumping big hole next to where they ripped it up. Remember the old big yellow
Sludge pump.
Sludge pump, the one I got electrocuted on.
I did as well.
Yeah,
no test and tag on that one.
I got I got a belt on that one day. So that was a big thing, and then we went and got about 15 lengths of 90 mil storm water, ran it down the gutter, opened up a manhole.
Okay.
And we pumped. So we got at least the sewage system.
You know what I'm thinking? Pump it straight into Stormy.
No. Then we cleaned up. We cleaned up the mess. It was just a mess everywhere. And then we had to do. It was 150 mil earthenware, Reese's were really good. They opened up for us. We got some old cast iron slip sockets and the old mechanical joints, put a bit of plastic in the middle. I think we got out of it by about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But, you know, it was just, you can imagine, we're just paranoid about what's coming out of the hospital.
Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall and how like unregulated it would have been. Like now,
Probably no shoring.
It'd be a huge operation. Get Yarra down there. Get all.
They'd have hydro
reports, the whole lot.
Yeah.
We certainly.
They just go yellow pages, call the local maintenance guy with a few lengths of 90 and just get him to throw it into a manhole.
Talk about simpler times.
Yeah, I know.
Imagine that today, how much it would be an insurance blowout. It'd just be a disaster.
Yep.
So I guess the other one that stands out, apart from all the people like you were talking about that took gravely ill, which I could tell you some major stories there, but probably Eltham Leisure Centre had the big pumping, the big pumps for the swimming pool, wet, dreadful Saturday morning on Easter. The whole place was going underwater. There's
it's next to the creek.
Yeah, the storm water had blocked. It was building up. Triage situation again. The old big pump got, and once you're down in water like this when the pumps are turning, you think, oh my God, I'm going to get electrocuted any moment. And so that was another one that pumped out. Once I got the pump pumping again, was able to unblock the storm water. But a lot of pressure, a huge pressure. Ginormous pressure.
Oh, no doubt. So with some of your larger customers, we know you did some work for Yarra Valley Water.
Oh, huge amount.
At one stage because you were very early with the cameras.
It's thousands of jobs for them.
And then I believe you also did some consulting work for what it is today is the BPC, Building Plumbing Commission, formerly VBA, formerly PIC, Plumbing Industry Commission. Yep. So do you want to tell us what you did for the PIC and what you did for Yarra Valley?
Yeah, so it started off with, we'll go Yarra Valley first because I was doing a lot of drain cleaning.
Yep. So was that like HCB blockages?
And by the way, you can tell Rigid, we still use that old Coleman 1500, which I've had since I was 20. That's still sitting in your truck.
Yeah, it actually is.
Yeah, well,
Poor
you need
Rigid.
more than
just cop it.
Yeah, you need more than a medal.
Yeah, true.
You need more than you need 100 medals for that old Bertha. So we got this. I got camera, and one day I was unblocking a lady's sewer. I remember it was in Greensboro, and I said to her, "Would you like me to throw the camera down to have a look?" And I needed practice because I only had it a day or so. Anyway, I put it down, and I thought, this is in the HCB. It's not even in the house drain. So I went in and I said, this is actually not your problem. This belongs to Yarra Valley Water. Anyway, she pulled out this stack of paperwork where over 15 years, these plumbers had been charging her all this amount to unblock her sewer.
And all of a sudden the drain camera's born.
Oh, my God. So I rang Yarra Valley Water. I remember it was Richard Burlock. He ran all the repairs on maintenance. He said to me, "Don't move. I'm on my way." And he literally from Mitcham across to Greensboro, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, he brought 3 or 4 people along. And I'd explained to him that it wasn't an internal problem. It was external in Yarra Valley Water. And he goes, do you think you could look at a few more of these for us that are in dispute? I said, not a problem. He drags me in about a day or two later, and he had hundreds and hundreds of them.
Talk about right place at the right time.
Right place, right time. It was because we were the first. We're actually the first ones with the sea snake in Melbourne, but the second one in Victoria. Okay. There was a guy in Ballarat that got it before us. And it was the start of it. So we were literally going from 6 o'clock in the morning, starting right across in the north and right down into the east.
Was it a ballsy move when you bought the camera? You know, it would have been a real...
Yeah, it was, yeah.
That's something you're really going out of your comfort zone to go, I don't know how to use it.
It was so obvious though, Danny.
Yeah.
It was so obvious. that it was just like this was simple. But Fitzy and I, we used to take off at 6 a.m. We'd work to 6 at night. Your mum would then write the reports because she's speed typist. And then we write the reports up, then we videos, and then get them back to Yarra Valley at the end of the week.
Did they have a locator when they first came out?
No, that was the biggest
No.
problem.
Finding the point.
The only problem is we became really good at reading plans though.
Yeah.
And because we had, we developed technology to the old heavy Kevin, we knew where the camera was in it. We could hear it.
And then, so from your Yarra Valley water connection, the PIC got
Yeah,
in
they
touch.
contacted me,
And
yep.
Was the work that you did for the PIC of similar nature with the drain camera?
Identical, yeah. So what a lot of problems was the inspectors would get complaints about what plumbers were doing, and because they had no way of diagnosing the issues. So one day I got a call from the chairman, who was Michael Kefford, and he goes, "Do you think you could come in and talk to us about doing a few jobs for us?" I said, "Yeah, no problems." I came in and started to do some work for the PIC doing internal audits, and it was crazy, yeah. Now you know why I jump up and down a bit. Inspections when I used to do internal audits for them.
We decided not to involve your relationship with the PIC, VBA, BPC today.
It's not good.
He's banned from calling them.
Cut.
Yeah. He's
I'm
banned.
banned.
Yeah.
Too argumentative, aren't I?
You are a real problem when it comes to any government bureaucracy. You just want to fight.
I don't want to fight. I just want to argue with them.
Okay, you want to argue with them. So that's fantastic. So do you want to tell us about how you had mastermind, or I don't like using the word manipulated, but I feel you did, mastermind me into coming to work with you, and what that thought process was. And once we've gone through that, then we'll talk about how that evolved to Danny. So
Well, it's a very delicate situation. Is it okay to mention you
for sure,
came
yeah.
to live with me at a pretty young age? So let's just get this right. I get on really well with your mum. Your mum's a fantastic person. But you and I, we've got on pretty well. And
Yeah, so for context, you're a single dad.
yeah, single dad.
You've got a young boy you're
Yep.
looking after by
Yep.
yourself.
Yep, you was 7, nearly 8 when you decided you wanted to live with me.
So you're running a business, you're raising a young child as a single parent.
Yeah.
What's the evolution of that from where that was to where it was like, hey, you better come and start working and let's
Well, I think you could answer that question because you used to come to work with me day and night, didn't we? We used to go.
yeah.
You almost wouldn't have a choice. A lot of the time it'd be, hey, I've got to go. You're 9 years old. You're not staying home by yourself. So just come in the van and come inside and say hello, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So I guess my deep exposure, you're very right. That was my sole parent, and you don't just leave a child at home for no reason. So I would jump in the van, and at night time we do call outs. Every weekend I'd just be sitting as a passenger. I'd hold the torch. I'd run leads. Like I'd started very young. Every school holidays, that's what it was. So as far as exposure and all of that, it was basically our whole life. But I want you to tell us when it became like you need to start, and what were you thinking? What did you mastermind this? Was this part of the plan? How did this become what it is?
I don't think I masterminded it, but you from a very early age, Jordan, like you were 3 or 4 when I gave you a Stanley knife to cut up cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
And I can remember the first lady coming over screaming at me, "Why have you got this little boy cutting cardboard boxes?" And I said, "Don't worry, it's a sharp blade." And she thought I was being offensive, but so I think it just grew on us, and it just happened. And it's like when I think you were 13, 14, I let you put a hot water service in by yourself under my very, very strict supervision. And then when the lady came out, she goes, "I've been watching that child put my hot water service in." And I said, "Trust me, it's beyond, perfect because I'm supervising him doing that." I think you were 8 or 9 when I let you put your first pan assistant in.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of, we can harp on it, but there's a lot of history there.
I don't want to take the credit for it. You.
No, okay. So I've started as an apprentice at 15.
Yep.
What was I like as an apprentice?
Oh, shocking. Shocking. I mean, Danny, I didn't even want to work with you because, I mean, being a father and son, all you want to do is argue.
So I was a real problem.
It was a real problem. You still are a problem. 2 nights ago, you didn't want to talk to me for some reason.
That's normal. That's just father-son.
You were a real problem.
But I was a shithouse apprentice.
I won't say shithouse.
I'll be honest. Because we'll talk about the golden child sitting across from me in a
He is
second.
my golden child. You were difficult. You wouldn't listen to me. You would not listen.
That's father and son, though. Like when I started, I was shit scared. Like, you know, you're 15, 16, and Wayne's just absolutely throttling you with yelling at you and grilling you.
I was assertive. But I didn't want to have to ring your mother up and say he's just chopped his bloody fingers off. I didn't want to have to ring your father up and say you got a broken leg, you come off a ladder. You know, when Danny, you come to work with me, you are my son. I don't want to see you go home. This is emotional. I don't want to see you go home with a broken neck. You are my responsibility. And if that means, and I know you can't do it today, and if that means, okay, I raise my voice, I get assertive, this is the way it's going to be.
What about physical? Because there's been a couple of times on the job where me and Wayne have been jumper to jumper.
We weren't punching. We never punched.
No punched.
I might have grabbed you by the neck. Danny, don't do that. You'll kill yourself. I mean, but okay, I know you can't do that today.
So now that we're in, so obviously Danny's joined, which we touch on in episode 1. You've got the 2 of us. What does this feel like for you? And you know, tell us the process.
It was a very high risk taking. I mean, because Danny manipulated his way into the job. I mean, he grew up in my house, in the swimming pool, in the backyard. He was there constantly, and he kind of just was there. And I had the guilt up because I couldn't really take one without the other.
It kind of wasn't fair that I was going off. I was an official apprentice. I had a tool bag. I was getting tools, and I was official.
Let Danny down.
Well, not when he was so much better.
We come as a package.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it was very difficult. And just don't forget, I still had Glenn.
Of course.
You know, we had Glenn because remember we were doing some big projects still.
Yeah.
Gaz.
No, don't mention him.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to do a shout out to Glenn actually, because Glenn was a very influential figure in both Danny's apprenticeship and mine.
Of course.
So Glenn was a very different cat to Wayne.
Cool, calm, and collective.
Calm. And a fantastic tradesman. You know, unbelievable tradesman. So we much preferred working with Glenn than you. He was kind, calm. He actually taught us nicely, explained things properly, and basically am I right, Danny?
Well, Glenn also came in, like, I did months, even years with Glenn. We did. And Glenn was a subcontractor. So Glenn was in no rush to get anything done. Well, when you're working with Wayne, business owner, let's go, hurry up, quick, no time to learn. Well, Glenn would be like, let's just grab a coffee. Yeah. I'll show you how to draw these flashings up. We got all day.
So, yeah.
Great for an apprenticeship.
I've got Glenn to thank a lot for some of my management skills that I still use today. And you play a very bad role in this.
Oh.
So we would go on to a job and Glenn, you know, a plumber of 30 years, he's worked alongside Wayne, what have you not. I come along as a second-year apprentice. Wayne's off doing maintenance work. We're doing a re-roof with Glenn. Suddenly I'm coming in at 11:30. Hey, Glenn, we better pick up the pace a bit here. You know, let's try and get this done. Let's try and push. And he turned around and go, sorry? Who are you? And I said, oh no. He goes, has your old man been on the phone to you? And I go, nah. He had. Wayne's in the background to me. Tell Glenn to hurry up. Get that job done. You got to push him, you know. And I'm sitting there going, hey, Glenn, you know, doing a great job. And I was just put in the most horrendous position of coming home to you screaming at me that the job's not moving quick enough and Glenn saying, don't take his calls.
I was the same. Wayne would ring me every day on the way home. How many sheets did you get down today?
I did too.
Yeah. So, a big shout out to Glenn. He did some awesome stuff. And, you would always put so much pepper on things. I remember one night at 11 p.m., we were on the roof at Coburg.
Oh, windy night.
It was windy, and we had this site shed on the roof. This was just a tin shed from Bunnings. And Wayne had me up there with hanging strap. It was pouring rain and wind like you'd never seen. And we're putting hoop iron over the thing, rattle gun screaming. And this was before impact drivers. So this is run a lead and get those old power rattle guns out. So some crazy times. So then, what does it look like now when you look at the business?
Well, I've lost control of it now. I mean, obviously, because of what you guys are doing, I have no idea how ServiceMate really works. I mean, the only thing I really monitor now is the receivables reconciliation statement, the money which is owed, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, indirectly. Yeah. You oversee it. You're a good consultant, but just not forgetting you are in retirement now.
Well, I don't dispute that, but I still have to keep my finger in the pie a little bit.
Yeah. So Danny and I step up. We finish our apprenticeship. We start basically stealing the business from you.
Stealing it?
Can I say something? I remember as an early fourth year that Wayne, we sat down and had a talk about what you want to do after your apprenticeship, because there was concerns that there wasn't going to be work. And we spoke, and I started looking around. I wouldn't mind making some money, go commercial. Like, the options were open because there was no plan to stay, because there really wasn't the workload for it. And then in about that year of my fourth year, we started looking at Josh come along, and then we all of a sudden we bought that Colorado, and all of a sudden Adam Bishop was coming in as a subby, and all of a sudden we had a bit of work, and then I ended up sticking around. But there was a time where, hey, it was almost like, hey, I've given you 4 years, thanks so much, and everything's great. And we were going to almost part ways. But we've made it work to this.
Yeah, I guess that was the traditional route, that you'd finish your apprenticeship and then you'd get the see you later, which doesn't happen now because the industry's changed so much.
On to apprentices, we get onto the topic of what was Audrey saying just before?
About the trainee programs and the apprenticeships. And so you've been very influential, obviously, with Danny and I, and you've trained us properly, and we still, instill a lot of your old school principles and morals to our apprentices now.
Do we have the stats of how many apprentices make it through?
Wayne knows it. Wayne knows
what
all
is it?
about
So
that.
how many apprentices make it through an apprenticeship?
I can tell you, I can absolutely guarantee you this, that 3/4 sit and do their journeymans and get passed, a quarter don't. And that's the latest research.
What about starting and finishing 4 years? Because I know a lot of guys.
That's part of it.
Yeah, when you probably are the same. Your trade school class probably merged a couple of times because they drop off.
We had a merger at about second year.
Yeah.
Because we'd lost so many. I think we'd lost half of our class.
That's crazy.
By second year, and then we amalgamated with another class and formed the most beautiful group of guys. When in that amalgamation, such great guys, and I hope the guys from my trade school class are listening to this, and yours too, Danny. I know plenty of your mates.
Still got good mates. Still got their phone numbers. Still have a call.
I'd love to chat with some of the guys from my trade school class. We just had some beautiful times, and I'm sure like a lot of plumbers are listening to this, so respectively they both would have heard it. But some wonderful times. So, Dad, you've worked in with the trade schools as like a consultant.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
You've done speeches and talks with the apprentices.
Yep.
You've worked with higher level as a advisor on programs.
So you're going to ask me what's wrong with the building?
Tell us what's wrong.
I can tell you straight away. It's technical skills.
Yeah.
So
tech schools don't exist.
I went to the best tech school in Australia. What's only a tech?
Danny, didn't your dad go to a tech school?
Well, there was no other option. It was McLeod Tech.
Yeah.
So
rough old McLeod Tech.
Rough old McLeod Tech. So you just, even if you had no interest in metalwork and woodwork, that doesn't matter. Everyone's doing metalwork and woodwork.
And you went to a tech school, obviously, Dad.
I went to what's only a tech, seriously, was the best school in the world.
So to provide some clarity for those that don't understand what a tech school is, because it's foreign to even
like
me.
It's like TAFE now.
Okay, so is this instead of high school?
Yeah.
So you finish year 6 in primary school?
Yep, 11-year-old.
So at 11 years old, they make a decision whether you go to academic school or you go to
Correct.
tech school.
Yep.
I guess we would have known at
I would
11.
have put both you kids into tech school at that age. Not a problem at all. I mean, it was just so simple. I had no ability to understand maths, English, science, any of that stuff. The moment you put me into tech school, you taught Pythagoras' theory in grade 6, and you wouldn't have a clue. You get into tech school, and then they give you a round pipe,
All
and
of a
they
sudden
go,
you're interested.
"Oh, hang on, that's Pythagoras' theory." You just did it through development, and I can remember the last day of year at school at tech school, and we had you would have been interested in this, Danny. The teacher was half a day in motor mechanics. The very first day the teacher came with this old Volkswagen engine. And over the year, we stripped it down. Still remember now, for intake, compression, spark, exhaust. Is that right, Dad? And we pulled it down. So it was the last day at school. Everyone was supposed to leave at 2:00. And the teacher says, you better get there early at 7:00. And we're all there at 7:00 trying to get this engine going. And school had finished. Everyone had gone. There's about 10 or 12 kids still desperately. The teacher was trying to blow air through the fuel line, sucking on the bloody fuel line, putting fuel down.
Because they're interested.
And
the kids wanted to
and
be there.
everyone had
amazing.
gone. And these kids did not want to go.
So if we look at our apprentices now, we've got 4 apprentices. One of them's just finished a VCE or VCAL program. He's only had academic.
Yeah, usually they only really academic up to what they can do is now, I believe, is like year 10, 11 and 12, you can do your VCAL. So you choose not to do, say, going into, I don't know, history and science or anything like
Humanities.
that. Humanities. And you can choose to do more of a 1-day a week work placement and then you do your Cert 2s. But even I did my last year of school in 2009 at Northland.
Yeah.
That was before it was whatever it is now, INCAT or something like that. And that was just Northland Secondary School.
But it was like tech school.
All I had was maths and English. We didn't have lockers and we didn't have books or bags. So you'd go, we had to wear boots, work pants and high vis, and we'd have 4 trade subjects that you could choose. And they didn't have plumbing at the time, but I did an automotive, a woodwork, a metalwork, and there was even an electrical one. And that's your week. So you do maths and English probably only twice a week, and the rest of it was hands-on.
Yeah.
And that was a great school. Very rough.
We
but
need
great
that
school.
from.
It needs to be earlier.
And this is the problem. And when we're talking about building houses, I mean, how are we going to build houses if we don't start the foundations? And the foundations is, and I'm not discriminating between boys and girls. The best member of Christine Butner, she was the best framer ever. I don't care if it's boys or girls or whatever, but you've got to get these kids right back. In fact, I had a meeting not so long ago, unofficial one with a federal member of parliament, and I said, we've got to get these kids back into tech schools and educate them this way.
Because they're doing these Cert 2s, but they're not starting them until year 10, 11, 12, which is when you're nearly 17, 18. If you could be educated by 17, if you can knock on the door of a plumbing company and go, hey, I've done my Cert 2 when I was in year 8 and 9, I already know all that, I'm ready to go.
When these kids left what's only a tech, they were doing engineering, so they were doing offset camshafts in engineering, and like the kids today wouldn't understand that. None of that.
We're going to move on. So we've got some questions from our first podcast that we said we put out that you were going to come on.
Sure.
So we've got some questions that that we might read out. Should I read them out, or how do you want to do that? Oh my gosh, there's heaps. Okay. Oh, these are great. What's one unconventional thing you keep in your van?
Unconventional.
Yeah.
Broom.
Oh, brilliant.
Broom and shovel. What have I told you when you do a job? If you do 100 hours work, allow for 10 hours clean-up. You haven't finished the job until you've cleaned up. How many times have we been on jobs and I've said, where's the skip? We own 4 of our own skips. bring the skip in.
Clean up.
Clean up. How many times you guys would go home? We were building. You guys would go home at 4 o'clock. I'd stay to 6 o'clock cleaning up and putting rubbish in the bin every night.
Danny, I might ask you this question. How do you guys compete with other plumbers charging the bare minimum?
Well, that's a hard question. I think we would almost delegate our best plumber to do the cheapest job purely because it comes down to getting in and getting out in time. If you've really had to cut back the price to get it as tight as possible, you're not going to send, one of the earlier guys who's going to fluff about and whatever. All right, there's nothing on this job, but we want to win it. We want to do it. Let's send someone with a lot of experience to get in, get out, and not get a recall on a job that's at such a small margin.
Yeah, it's so true. Wayne, I'll get you to take this one.
Yep.
What's the best business advice you have received that you've implemented within the business?
You know that answer.
I think I do, but I'm going to let you take it.
You're only as good as your last job.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
This can come tumbling down so fast, so quick.
So true.
You're only as good as your last job.
Yeah. I guess mine, if I was going to give advice, this could be a little bit controversial, but get paid.
Yep.
You've got to get paid.
What's our 3 philosophies in business?
Yeah, just don't forget there's a few builders that listen to this podcast. But yeah.
Go and tell them.
Oh, the first one is don't roll the excavator.
Don't work for builders.
That's the third one.
No, that's the first one.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay,
Because the
whatever.
safety's got to come first.
Okay,
the
righto.
first 2 are don't roll the excavator. The third one's don't work for builders. And we mean no disrespect to any builders. We're in a different field of plumbing. I just want to touch on any particular memories and.
Okay, so yeah, medical.
Yeah, go for it. So, is there any standout memories that you think could be interesting to some of our listeners today? Whether they're about customers, whether they're about jobs, Danny.
Yep.
What have you got?
So obviously, over the years, I've taken people to hospital that on several occasions I've had a heart attack. Quite a prominent Melburnian had a heart attack about 30 years ago when I was at his place. That was kind of pretty scary. He survived. I had to take a lady to the hospital that was having a baby.
So anyone listening to this, particularly after how I encountered Danny about our first one, with the CPR, anybody listening to this must just think that we're just paramedics.
Yeah.
It always comes down to when they get the invoice. They seem to have heart attacks. They seem to fall over.
So you had somebody who was having a baby.
Yep, in Greensboro. Yep.
And did you put her in the back of the van like an ambulance?
I put her in the van next to me. Yep. Is it okay to say this? But her water broke in my van.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay, bro. Go on.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of crazy. But my most famous one was when a very prominent surgeon's mother went downstairs in Rosanna, and I looked down. I was in the backyard, and I looked down, and I saw this lady on the ground, and I ran up, and she was in a mess. She had blood everywhere. She'd opened up her head, her arms, all her skin had rolled back. She was in a hell of a mess. I happened to be with another person at the time. I said, "You drive." I probably wouldn't do it today because I was worried about the bleeding. I put compression. I went into the house, went through the linen press, like frantic.
Yeah.
Pulled out everything, bandages I could, held her in my arms. I was 2 or 3 minutes from Austin Hospital and took her in, carrying her in.
Interesting.
So
She was.
this just doesn't happen to me.
Yeah.
It seems to just be you guys.
Oh, trouble follows us.
Yeah.
Now, before we finish up, we'd like to hear some words of wisdom from you to Danny and I on
Yep.
what you make of who we are now and what we've done, and
Yep.
seeing us over the last 15 years or so. What's your take from somebody that's seen it right from the scratch, and
Yep.
what can you give us? What do you think of what we've done?
The reason you're successful, the reason you're both successful, is because it's not a 9 to 5 job to you. it doesn't matter what time of the day, night, you're always talking to one another. You never, you always qualify the job. Ask the customer 20 times, are you happy? Are you happy?
I've got a buddy, and that goes across the board to all of our guys.
Absolutely.
That's not just us. That's you go through the service, mate, and you see our guys replying to emails at 9 o'clock at night, and they're just maintenance plumbers, mate, and they're still on it,
It's care
and
factor.
It really is.
To prove this is my most famous job where I ended up in VCAT where the lady didn't want to pay the bill because I'd quoted to unblock her sewer. I had called her 7, 8, 9 times that day saying, we can't unblock it, we can't unblock it. The next day, we finally unblock it. I gave her the bill. She goes, you quoted me $200 to unblock this sewer. I end up taking it to VCAT. I got there, had all the evidence of the phone calls, and I said to the hearing officer, I remember saying, look, this is all the times I've spoken to this lady about this problem. I kept her informed. I didn't go the whole day and go, here's your bill. And the hearing officer said to the lady, is this true that he spoke to you 7 or 8 times during the day for 3 minutes here, 5 minutes there? Yes. Then why are we here?
Yeah. Well,
Pay the plumber his bill.
Cover yourself.
Qualify it. Don't do anything. People don't know the difference between a sewer pipe, a stormwater pipe,
of course,
a gas meter, a water meter. People have shown me a water meter saying it's a gas meter.
of course.
Qualify.
Okay, that's good. We'll take that in a stride. Danny, you got anything else you want to touch on? We've got Wayno with us. Otherwise, I think we're pretty good. I mean, the thing is, we could rabbit on for 20 years with him.
What's the most important thing you learned from me, Danny?
Most important thing?
You're a difficult boy.
Yeah, I was.
Swine of a boy.
I think the biggest thing I've picked up from Wayne over the years would definitely be a do-it-now attitude, and we try and implement that as much as we can. As an apprentice, you're tired, you come back, you unload all the tools, and they're all dirty and whatever. But Wayne would go, it's 6 o'clock, let's get the hose, let's do it now, because if we don't do it now, it's not getting done. And it comes off everything. Even we do it, I've got to call that person, and it enters your head, pull over and just do it on the spot and tick them off.
It's amazing how much of Dad's morals, principles, you don't even realise it happens subconsciously, that you and your input still plays a role in every hour of every day.
And another one of the biggest ones is going back to cleaning up as you go. It comes down to life skills, not just at work. It's everything. And I walk into a rough-in the boys are doing, and you go into the room and there's coils of water pipe and there's fittings. I go, what are you up to? And they go, well, we finished the water. We're just doing the sanitary. We're doing the waste. Get rid of your pipe. Yeah. Get rid of all those fittings. Get a broom. Start from scratch. Clean the whole site, and then we start the next stage.
This all stems from you. When I'm in the factory in the morning, going berserk, running the broom around the joint, spraying, wiping the tyres on the truck, going, this is not good enough. That's all you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How many plumbing firms in Melbourne would have a cleaner come in our factory 3 mornings a week for 5 hours each morning? How many?
Not many.
None.
That's a testament to our success. It's our factory.
It's setting.
You could eat your dinner off the floor.
It sets the bar so high that when the guys come in,
they have to.
If you leave a crumb of dirt on the ground, someone's going to pick you up on it. But if the ground is covered in dirt, then you just add to it.
Same with the trucks. We would have the best deck trucks in Melbourne.
We like to think so.
They are perfect.
Spent my whole apprenticeship washing vans.
Wayno, it's been a pleasure. We will have to have you back because I feel like that we not even scratched the surface.
We haven't.
And it goes so quick.
VBA.
Let's not talk about the VBA.
Let's talk about the VBA.
Yeah, well, they don't exist anymore.
Oh, let's talk about the British Petroleum.
Wayno, it's been a pleasure. Danos, always a pleasure. Look forward to the next one. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening. Please, if you want to be a featured guest, if you feel you can add value, we don't mind. If you're a different trade, we don't mind. Anything that you can add value as a trade, reach out to us, send us a DM. We'll look into you. We'll talk to you. We're really keen. And also, if you can share follow. I know that's what everyone says, subscribe and like and rah, 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 but tell your friends about it. We're just here to share genuine and happy, good, valuable trade business stories and advice, and we hope you've enjoyed. So thank you very much.